They're locked inside and crowded into small rooms. But these men aren't convicted criminals.
Everyone here is sick mentally and physically. It's really a stressful time because we are panicking. We don't want to catch this virus.
Mustafa Azamitabar is a Kurdish refugee who was medevaced to Australia from PNG 6 months ago.
I personally suffer from asthma, PTSD, and mental problems. I didn't receive any proper medication.
There are 1,400 refugees and asylum seekers detained on the Australian mainland. 260 of them are in hotels like this, known as APODs, Alternative Places of Detention.
The Australian government tell people that we are in 4-star hotels. This is not a 4-star hotel. It's like a torture center.
Mustafa is based at the Mantra Hotel in Melbourne. He says most of his inmates are either sick or injured.
There are 3 people who are sharing this room together.
We are spending 23 hours a day in our rooms. There is no outdoor space for breathing here, no place for walking. Even the corridor is less than 1.5 meters.
This is the place that guys can eat lunch and dinner.
Dozens of guards and other workers come into daily contact with the detainees.
Most of them, they don't use gloves and masks. They don't practice the social distancing. I have seen that some of them coughing, some of them have running nose. I asked the manager why these sick people are working here, and the manager simply said maybe it's a hay fever.
At the APOD in Brisbane, detainees say they have no way of protecting themselves from the coronavirus. 80 people were originally based at this hotel, but those inside say that number has nearly doubled. Many of the men came from larger detention centres, some of them unwillingly.
Step back, step away. Outside.
2 weeks ago, they brought me by force with handcuffs.
Now they're sending in the ERT to get the last bloke out. Look at the size of them.
And they dragged me in the ground. And they left a couple of injuries in my shoulder, in my knee, and other places.
They have their lawyers, they have their health providers, they have members of the community who come and visit them, all in one particular location. And then without notice and without warning and for no given reason, they're often then transferred.
Social distancing in these conditions is impossible.
An outbreak in a confined space, such as a detention centre, may lead to outcomes such as those we've seen on cruise ships, and we do not wish that to occur. Workers in detention centres are also at higher risk, and that also poses a bigger risk to their families and the community.
The federal government has repeatedly ignored calls from medical colleges, advocates and Australia's Human Rights Commissioner to release men, women and children who are in detention into the community.
All of these people were pre-screened for any character or security issues before they were transferred to Australia. So there's absolutely no justifiable reason why they should continue to be held in known high-risk conditions when they should be released into the community to protect them from the risk of COVID-19.
It's important to note that it costs around $350,000 to keep just one person in immigration detention for a year. On the other hand, it costs only $10,000 to $15,000 to release that person into the community on a bridging visa while their claim is being processed.
I personally feel if I catch this virus, I will die because I have asthma and it's very difficult.
In the UK, around 300 detainees have already been released to protect them from the coronavirus. But the government says in our detention centres,
infection control plans are in place and plans to manage suspected cases of COVID-19 have been developed and tested. In addition to regular daily cleaning, increased cleaning of communal areas, high traffic areas and common touch points is occurring.
To date, there has been no infection in detention centres. We of course have put in place other measures to prevent there being infections because we don't want it to occur.
They need to set us free before everyone will get sick and it will be end of our life. We are afraid that we're gonna die in a detention centre.
it's one thing to hear the government's reassurances there, and I guess it's good that we hear them. But the problem is we've never known what goes on in detention centres. And so often we've been told something has happened there and it's turned out to be a very different story. And, you know, I know there'll be a lot of people watching this series that couldn't care less about these people. Even if you don't care about these people, care about yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's the nature of this, right? If they're not safe, then the community isn't. That's what a pandemic is, right?
One in all in, but $350,000. I can't. My brain goes straight to the number of empty hotel rooms that we have in this country at the moment. That wouldn't cost $350,000 for a year, anywhere near that. But you could keep these people safe. You could put them. I can't believe there were 3 men in that hotel room, staying together 23 hours a day.
I don't get why that would be.
I don't understand why they can't have their own hotel room, and given that it's $350,000 to do that...
Or do community detention, as they're saying, and then it's a totally different story and the cost is a lot less.
Can you imagine their anxiety?
Well, that's the thing. I always think about we're in lockdown for 5 minutes and we're going, when will this end? When will this end? When will this end? Imagine if you're in that situation. Now, we did reach out to Mantra Hotels for comment, but we didn't receive a response. But there's a full statement from the Department of Home Affairs on our website.